Well, it was a very strong start for our big heroes of the sport. Guys like Roger Federer, Rafa Nadal, Novak Djokovic, Stefanos Tsitsipas. Not the best start for Dominic Team, my personal friend aus Österreich. The biggest names in the 2019 Roland Garros men's draw are safely through to the second round. A couple more big names still to play tomorrow. But I gotta tell you, it almost all came crashing down for Roger Federer in his first round when this happened. Who would put a silver alligator right in the way? Mr. Goat is so upset about this. He's just disgusted. He had to leave the scene. But I say it again. Who would put a silver alligator right in Roger Federer's way as he's signing autographs for his beloved fans?
I'm proud to be the new crocodile.
Novak! Mr. Goat is just so upset about that. This close to ending Roger Federer's run. A freaking alligator. Oh my God, it's a crocodile, isn't it? What an idiot. Today on Coffee Break Tennis, we go through the draw. We talk about the things I get wrong. We talk about the things that I mostly get right. Also, we'll look at some stats. It's very early, but I think it's important to compare the first round stats of all the biggest names in the men's draw. Just those two things on today's very brief Roland Garros edition of Coffee Break Tennis. Welcome to Coffee Break Tennis, the fastest growing tennis talk show in the world. I am your host, Matt Bradshaw, tennis expert and lover of the game. Your co-host, Mr. Goat, the talking tennis cat, was either so disgusted with me saying alligator instead of crocodile, or so disgusted with Joker Nole planting that there in the way of Roger Federer to trip. One of those things disgusted him so much, he fled the set. Let's dive right into the draw. So if you're like me and slightly confused on why are some people playing in some parts of the draw and others not after 2 whole days, we should be through with the first round, but we played on Sunday, and I think what happened was the bottom half of the draw was told you can play either Sunday or Monday, please pick, and pretty much the whole top quarter of the bottom half played on Sunday. Nobody in the top half played Sunday. I think they told the top half guys, you can play Monday or Tuesday. Take your pick. I believe Nishikori was the only person in the bottom quarter on the bottom half to play on Sunday. Now, if you look at the top half of the draw, pretty much the entire top quarter played. Well, not really. Half of the top quarter of the top half of the draw. This is getting confusing. I should probably put this on the screen when I edit. But you'll see. And a small part of the top of the bottom quarter of the top half of the draw. God, that's confusing. But basically, Dominic Team came through, Boobslick came through, and Pablo Cuevas. I don't know much about Alexander Boobslick from Kazakhstan, home of Borat. But of course, we all know Pablo Cuevas, who is a great clay court player. And we would see here Jeremy Chardy or Kyle Edmund to play Pablo Cuevas in the second round, but they had to stop at 5-all in the fifth set. How crazy is that? Because of darkness. And that is a theme already at this tournament. The French crowd, I mean, they always get rowdy for French players, but they really, really pulled through. Give me my credit, because I said it. Cecchinato, he could be tricky for someone on clay, but he could get in a very tricky, crazy match against Nicolas Mahut, who doesn't have much time left playing on tour. He's getting a lot old. I can't think how old he is now, but he's well into his 30s and hasn't been winning a whole lot for quite some time. One thing I learned from the Tennis Channel broadcast is that he's had 13 wild cards. He's the all-time leader in Grand Slam wild card recipitations. He's the number one recipient of Grand Slam wild cards with 13. The GOAT of wild card invitations. So congratulations to Nicolas Mahut, who came through, Mr. Mahut. And you got to say, way down, Mahut comes through because of the crowd going nuts for him. Not only does that inspire you as a player, but that has to really hurt when you're the other player. Especially Cecchinato, who probably came here thinking, I love Paris. It's the site of my greatest achievement in this great sport, tennis. And now he goes home saying, I freaking hate Paris and those French people. It wouldn't be the first time someone said that after a trip to France. So Mahut, after being down 2 sets, comes through 6-4, 6-2, 6-4. That was, I didn't say he would win, but I said, look out, that could get very tricky with the French crowd. We now see Jeremy Chardy getting the same treatment. being helped carried through. We also saw one of the favorites of the year, one of the most winning players of the year. Oh, you know who I'm talking about. Of course, it's the guy that a lot of people had Rafa playing in the quarterfinals, that BS Russian, Danny Medvedev, hated by Stefanos Tsitsipas. They're worst enemies, which I think is good for tennis. But they won't play. We won't see any more of Medvedev because he got out to, after being, what was the scoreline for Mr. Medvedev? I believe he was up 2-0. Yes, up 6-4, 6-4. Then the French crowd helps Air Bear lead him to a 6-3, 6-2, 7-5 in the fifth victory. Now, also, we know Medvedev kind of runs out of steam. He's been doing great in best of three, just like Sasha Zverev does. And he would have won in best of three. Quite easy. You know, if you just look at the first two sets, what was it, 6-4, 6-4? Yeah, 6-4, 6-4. It looks like a pretty routine win. A break apiece. Came through fairly easily. But this isn't best of three. It's very exciting to be back to best of five. What else noteworthy happened? Schwarty D, who could face Federer in the fourth round, in the round of 16, a lot of people think it's going to be Schwarty D. I mean, if it's not Schwarty D, is it going to be Leonardo Oscar Mayer Wiener, Cole Pickle, Nicholas Mahou? What if it was Mahou? Then the French crowd would still pull for Federer. Maybe. Most likely. Nishikori might get the French treatment up next, playing Tsonga. That will be on Wednesday, I believe. We'll get to see Nishikori and Wilfried Tsonga. One upset that was noteworthy was Juan Ignacio Londero, a guy we've been talking about who's been pretty good on clay this year, especially in the clay court part of the season before Monte Carlo. Juan Ignacio Londero came through 6-4, 6-1, 6-3, shockingly easy against Basilashvili. That would have been a tough match to pick, but I don't think anyone would have said Bash gets bashed out of the match. And I don't know what the French fans are going to do because Benoit Paire, who's probably has more confidence right now than he's ever had. He's going to play Air Bear, the hero who took down Danny Medvedev. He came through in 4 sets over Marius Kopel, but the most noteworthy thing there is he won the first set 6-4, loses in a tiebreak, and then he throws down a bagel and a baguette, because in France they don't eat breadsticks, they eat baguettes. So what is the French crowd going to do when it's Paire versus Air Bear? I think they better go with Paire. More fun, more likely to keep winning. I don't know. Air Bear's a very talented guy. Oh, something I got very wrong in the draw was I expected to see Jaume Munada, Jerry Seinfeld doppelganger, to come through and face Djokovic in the third round. That will not happen. Caruso, Salvatore Caruso, he's like a mid-20s Italian journeyman. Don't know very much about him. He'll play Gilles Simon next and get the French treatment from the crowd, so he's toast. So looking very much like we'll get a Djokovic and Gilles Simon third round. Could get tricky there. It shouldn't. Djokovic should be able to handle Gilles Simon. He's not playing as well. Like I predicted him to go pretty far at the Aussie Open just because I always have a lot of faith in that guy. And he's not played as well as of late. But then again, Nicholas Mahou hasn't played very well anytime recently either. So will the French crowd make things very rough on Djokovic? You know my Djokovic theorem. Joker does not like being the bad guy. Joker does not like the crowd completely turning against him. Especially, it's one thing Joker knows, the crowd is going to pick Nadal and Federer over him. But if they pick freaking Gilles Simon over him, how personally will Djokovic take that? Will that make the match very tricky? That's a match to watch. That will be Thursday. Seems like forever to see Nadal and Joker again on Thursday. And for whatever reason, Dominic Team kind of got the French treatment with Tommy Paul, who's an American guy. A young American. The crowd was just so pumped to see this crazy result. I don't think they wanted Team to lose necessarily, but they definitely wanted the match to go. Maybe they wanted a 5-set match. I don't know. Dominic Thiem's probably lucky it wasn't a French guy because the crowd would have been even more amped up. The stadium would have been more full. Dominic Thiem, man, not what a lot of people expected. A lot of people think Dominic Thiem would be the person who would win this year. If maybe he would have done a lot better in the lead-ups to the French Open on these clay tournaments like Monte Carlo, where he did pretty well. Of course, he won the smallest of the lead-ups, the 500 in Barcelona, and not so great for the lofty expectation. After winning Indian Wells, some people were saying, me too, I was saying, hey, if Dominic Thiem can win in Indian Wells, maybe he can really dominate on clay this year. Not so much. And then you see this incident with Tommy Paul. Obviously, Dominic Thiem took care of business. When we look at the stats, though, you'll see Dominic Thiem clearly has the worst stats of the biggest names to play yet. And just kind of a head scratch. I think a lot of people were thrown off by that. I think Dominic Team was shocked by that. Who is this Tommy Paul guy? The biggest thing I noticed was Tommy Paul was doing pretty well with the backhand up the line and was kind of out-hitting Dominic Team in a forehand-to-forehand cross-court rallies for a bit there. Couldn't sustain it. Guy's legs basically fell off by the end of the match and blew a big lead. Tommy Paul had a 4-0 lead in that tiebreaker. So credit to Dominic Team, because if he loses that tiebreaker, he probably still wins. But again, do you want to go 5 in your first matchup? I sure don't. Of course, Rafa did, 2011. John Isner still won. So let's just look ahead on the draw just a little bit. Henry Laxinen, Swiss guy, big guy. Next up for Joker. Shouldn't be any problems there. Struffy Struff, I sure did nail that. He nailed Chapo. El Chapo from the Canadian Cartel got blasted in 3 sets. At least there was a tiebreak there. Dome eregato radu albato. Someone commented that. Oh, I wish I could remember who it was. Credit to the person who commented that on one of the last videos. He got through, and he will play Struffy Struff. Next, Lloyd Harris. What if Lloyd Harris wins the whole thing? I'm going to look like an idiot. Lloyd Harris won. Born at Church will probably save face for me and put that loser out of his misery in no time. Just kidding. Lloyd Harris seems like a great guy. Swell guy. Team's got Boobslick next, and Pablo Cuevas. Watch out. Colledman, Jeremy Shardy, Pablo Cuevas, all those guys could give Dominic Team a little bit of trouble after what we saw what Tommy Paul did. I have a feeling we'll see Dominic Team get a little higher, raise that level a little higher, and start taking care of business better. He sure did blast a lot of winners. That is a good thing. He did hit his way out of trouble. Bottom half draw, Hugo Delin. I'm saying his name, the guy from Bolivia, gave Sasha Zverev a tricky match. And where were they just at? In Geneva, Switzerland. He'll play Tsitsipas next. That could be interesting. Tsitsipas, though, I thought he was very impressive against Martyrer, Maximilian Martyrer. Krajinovic beats TFO. I don't know why anyone would expect TFO to do great here. Stan Wawrinka gets through, but now he's got Christian Garin. Garin came through like I thought he would against Rilo Pelka. You know, that's always an accomplishment. 3 tiebreakers, that's tough. Young man, very impressive this year. And would not be shocked at all to see Stan Wawrinka fall to Christian Garin. Believe that would that be a Wednesday match? Wednesday or Thursday? How about Dimitrov and Yanko? Yanko was dead to rights. And Dimitrov, must have started having a flashback of all the nightmare scenarios he's been through this year. Dimitrov, lucky to get through there. Yanko Tipsarevic, hope he keeps trying because he's a fun player to watch. Have heard that maybe he might retire fairly soon. I mean, he's been through 7, 8, something crazy surgeries. Looking ahead, we will see Roger Federer and Oscar the Otter, another German player. Seen a lot of German players in this draw. Now let's talk about the big players, and then we'll get out of here. We'll look at some of their stats. One thing that's interesting is they're all playing big, tall guys who are pretty young, in their 20s, lower ranked. Obviously, Hurkacz rhymes with Latch, which I don't know if anyone knows how to say his name. I don't even know if I'm saying it right anymore. A real Polish person told me how to say it. I don't know who told the Tennis Channel people how to say it, but they're saying Horchata. They're saying all kinds of crazy stuff. Hurkacz rhymes with Latch, highest ranked, probably the most talented, best of all these players between the guys that, what is Martyrer's rank? I can't remember Maximilian Martyrer's rank, but anyways, I would say Hurkacz is the best player out of everyone that those big names have had to face so far. And Joker 6'4", 6'2", 6'2's him. I couldn't remember the scoreline, but that thing felt almost like more of a beatdown than the Rafa match. Hurkacz is a little bit tougher than Rafa's opponent, than Roger's opponent, and Tsitsipas's opponent. I'm very impressed by these guys. All these guys looked good. Let me bring up their stats. Oh, who does Rafa play next? Another German. Yannick Madden? Never heard of him. You know, we get so used to seeing these big names playing the Masters against players we've all heard of, and you forget what it's like at a major. His first couple of rounds, you play some people you've never heard of, which is fun. It's interesting. But things definitely get a lot more exciting later in the tournament, coming up later this week. So if we look at the stats, I guess we'd have to say we're most impressed by Djokovic because he took down a tougher first-round opponent and really didn't let Hurkacz. I mean, take a look at this. I had to take this little clip. I hope I won't get in trouble. It's 1 second, and it's not even of a tennis ball being hit. Take a look at Hurkacz rhymes with Latch being extremely frustrated with Novak Djokovic. Djokovic was 27 winners on 14 unforced errors. That is the second worst, but again, he had the toughest opponent. What is that? Plus 13. Rafa was only plus 9. That would be the worst. Roger was the most impressive with plus 21. 36 winners on 15 unforced errors. Stefanos plus 16. 36 on 20. And Dominic Team, who had to hit his way out of trouble, plus 18. 46 winners on 28 unforced errors. Quick note about winners and unforced errors. El Chapo had something, I don't remember. I don't know what the final count was, but the last time I looked, it was like 20-something and 40-something. El Chapo hitting more unforced errors than anyone on tour. That's what he does. Oh, and if we're going to talk about the Canadian cartel, we got to say, was it a thigh injury, a groin injury for FAA, Felix Auger-Aliassime? He is out. Who else is out? Somebody else pulled out. Sam Querrey pulled out, so Djokovic will face a lucky loser, just like Roger Federer faces a lucky loser. Nick Kyrgios pulled out, saying he was sick, but after he said, hey, I'm at Wimbledon practicing and the French Open sucks, we all have to wonder, did Nick Kyrgios just pull out because he didn't feel like going? Could have happened. So Dominic Team, winners and unforced errors of 46 to 28. So what was that, plus 18? Serve speeds was another interesting thing I looked at. Stefanos, Federer, Nadal all averaged on their first serve 112 miles per hour. Joker tops out at 114. Dominic Team, the lowest at 109. And second serve average speed was Roger Federer on top with 95 until Joker came along and made it 96. Dominic Team, 91. Nadal 93, and the lowest Stefanos with a very slow 88 miles per hour average second serve. Barely slower. Slower than those guys. But Stefanos had the most to show for his serve. 60% first serve in, 91 win, 66 win. That was the best out of everyone. Roger pretty close with 84% win on first, 61 on second, 74% in. Rafa very close, 69 in, 82 win on first, 61 win on second. Joker, this is one of those numbers you always got to watch out for with Djokovic. He's winning 73% on second serve, and it was against Hurkacz Ramselash, who's the best out of all these guys had to play. So 69 in, 81 win, and 73 win on second. 81 would be first serve for Djokovic. Watch out, because that's a high number, and that's a good opponent. If Joker can maintain a number like that, it could be Australian Open all over again, folks. Another number I like to track is who's coming to the net and how are they doing up there. Roger Federer, no shock there. 30 trips to the net, 25 of those points he won. That's very good. 17 for 22 from Stefanos. Is that second best? That's definitely second most. Again, if you got to compare Stefanos to a great from the past or current, compared to one of the big three, big four guys, he's a lot like the Roger Federer game. Come to the net, similar serving numbers, great location. Stefanos was peppering the corners. Didn't hit a ton of aces. No one really is, though. Roger had 5, I think. It's probably the most out of all these guys. I didn't write down aces. This is not as important on clay. Of course, on clay, what is the most important thing? Returning stats. The king of the returns so far is Rafa, the king of clay. 50% win on returning points. You're screwed. If you can only win half of your serve points against Rafa, and of course Rafa winning 82 and 61% on first and second serves, you have no chance. Joker, 49%. That's basically the same, but 50 is better. Dominic Team, 33%. Credit Tommy Paul. He was serving very well, but come on, Dominic Team. There was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Dominic Team is so far back, which I hate. I hate it. And he doesn't move up as quickly as Rafa does. Rafa might move back, not as far as Dominic Team was. Dominic Team was so far back that he let I guess it was a kick serve because it was the ad court and it was cutting that way. So you're on the left, you're on the ad court if you're Dominic Team, going to your backhand. And Dominic Team tries to slice this ball and he hits the wall. He has to run over so far. And again, it's not because, the serve was good to get over that far. But the longer you wait for the ball to come to you, the more time it has to spin and move away. So Dominic Team allowed that thing to kick all the way into the crowd, and he hits the wall with his racket. It was one of the most incredibly dumb, horrible things I've ever seen. Dominic, my personal friend, please stop standing so far back. So no surprise, Dominic wins 33%. Credit Tommy Paul for some good serving, too. Hurkacz didn't serve that bad, though. 49%. 41% win on the return from Steph, and Roger Federer, guys got a chance. 45% win on the return. Who's breaking here's one thing, too, you got to track. If you're going to track how many points do you win on the return, well, how often do you get to break? Roger breaks 5 times out of 11 chances. That was the most chances. Nadal, 6 out of 10. Joker, 6 out of 9. That was the most efficient. Stefanos, 4 out of 6. And Dominic Team, 3 out of 6. Maybe if you did the math, actually, maybe Steph, what is that, 66%? Oh, it's exactly the same. So Stefanos and Joker tied for the highest percentage of breaking on opportunities, on breakpoint opportunities. Joker got broken once, only allowed 2 looks. Rafa had 4 looks, all came in the very first game of the match. That was the most difficult part of the match for Rafa, and it was like he was just fine-tuning everything, getting everything together in the very last minutes, and then it came together, and then he crunched his opponent. Stefanos faced 0 breakpoints. Federer faced 4 just like Rafa and was broken 1 time. Let me make some caveats, some excuses for Roger in that game. 1, Roger was down love 40 and came all the way back, no problem. So Roger's serving very well. Definitely the best server in the draw so far. Out of everything I've seen, Tsitsipas also pretty high up there. Djokovic serving pretty well too. Roger Federer, the best. I think Roger Federer wins Wimbledon this year no matter what. So like I said, Roger Federer saves 3 break points pretty easily after a drop shot that just misses the line. Some kind of sloppy something happened. I can't remember. And then at deuce, Roger has an inside-in forehand that he crunches pretty good, goes up to play the volley. And remember, he wins 25 out of 30. And Mr. Sonego, or the guy I was watching on Tennis Channel Plus commentating called him Sonego, Mr. Sonego hits a running forehand winner, just destroys it, crunches it. It was an incredible shot, and it was a shot that you do not expect your opponent to make very frequently. So Roger, no problems there, but then he double faults. That didn't leave anyone feeling too good, double faulting on the 4th break point after saving 3 easily. You thought Roger would have held. Doesn't matter. He was already up a double break. Obviously, he won the match pretty easily. Incredibly, in that crazy match with Dominic Team, he was only broken 1 time. Only 1. Anyways, that's enough for the stats. I know some people out there think the stats don't mean anything, but what do we have besides the stats? It's a long match. We got to have some numbers to make sense of it afterwards, right? Anyway, so before we hit the music and start wrapping up, let me just say a few first impressions. 1, Rafa looks pretty unbeatable. 2, Djokovic looks just as unbeatable. It's early, but they've already set the tone for the tournament, and if they can keep it up, it's just going to roll and roll like a big snowball coming down the hill. Dominic Team, even though so many people had great faith in him, he set a tone, not so good of a tone at the start of the tournament. Look for him to want to jump all over his next opponent and say, hey, I can crunch my early round opponents just like Djokovic and Nadal too. Stefanos Tsitsipas, very impressive in his first match up. His next match will be tricky. If he gets through that, no reason to not see him continue to keep winning, keep going forwards until we see him and Roger in a quarterfinal. And my biggest takeaway so far is that Roger Federer is going to be so much fun to watch on this surface. We may not see anyone play quite like Roger on clay at the French Open for quite some time. He is playing so freaking aggressive. And the looks he's given you off of the return, drop shot returns. The sharp backhand knife slice that goes low to your backhand and brings you into the net return. Ripping returns, ripping backhands, ripping forehands. Roger Federer getting lots of forehands, hit a lot more forehands than backhands. That's all about he's pulling you around and getting the balls he wants. And Roger Federer moving doesn't look like any slower than ever. The best he's ever moved. Maybe he was, obviously he must have been faster when he was younger, but not much. It's hard to see a difference. And now he's just so deliberate in what he's trying to do out there. It's all automatic. Obviously, Roger doesn't plan it out like he said. You know, he doesn't like to watch a lot of film and think about a lot of stats because he likes to let it all kind of flow randomly as he does it. That's the tennis genius at work, as they say. But the way he's moving, the way he's serving, and the way he is attacking. Like I was saying on Twitter's, there was a stat. I'll put it on the screen. Last thing before we hit the music, take a look at this stat. Roger Federer compared to this year on clay, last time he played the French Open 2015, and his first match against Mr. Sonego, Lorenzo Sonego. He's taken that backhand considerably, a few feet closer inside the baseline. I mean, way in there. He's taken that backhand earlier than he ever has on clay in his career. So this is kind of new. The funny thing is they asked Roger about that, like, oh yeah, did you know that? And he said, I had no idea. No idea. But I'll tell you what, I believe Roger when he says that, and I also believe that he's just more and more committed to taking the ball earlier all the time. It's going to happen on every surface. It's not even a clay thing. Roger's just attacking more and more and more. We saw it in Miami. This is going to be super fun to watch Roger Federer. I just hope that he can keep it up, and because the problem with what Roger's doing is it's really fun. It's really spectacular. We're not going to see many people do it because it's really hard to do. And if timing's a little bit off, you can start making a ton of unforced errors. I really hope we don't have that happen. But even if it does, as long as Roger wins enough and gets the confidence in these best-of-5 set matches, look out. I really think the guy's going to win Wimbledon. Hit the music. We're going to get out of here. Those are my first impressions after we've seen everyone play. Make sure you watch tennis tomorrow because Juan Martín del Potro has what will be his toughest match for a while, Mr. Jerry from Chile. Of course, that was the guy who should have beat Sasha Zverev. Had his match points in the tiebreak the other day. Of course, we'll get to see Sasha Zverev tomorrow as well. Both, I think, could be tough matches. Del Potro, his draw gets easier after his match. Hopefully for him, he wins because I think he has a real chance to do something here. And Sasha Zverev, we've already seen him lose to David Ferrer after having be forced to hit tons of balls and make enough errors to beat himself, kind of. John the Milkman Millman, he's a guy who can do that too. Make sure you check out our Patreon in the description down below if you love Coffee Break Tennis and you want to see more of it. Help support Coffee Break Tennis, the fastest growing tennis talk show in the world. You can be a part of the team. 2, we will see you tomorrow with a little preview of the Oscar Otter and Roger Federer match. I'll come up with a game plan for the team, for the whole gang, everybody. See ya!